China's seafood market remains firm, with tight raw material supply and elevated replacement costs continuing to support historically high groundfish and salmon pricing. Global whitefish inflation is increasingly being driven by structural factors, including quota pressure, constrained processing capacity, and limited substitution options, rather than temporary supply disruptions. Pacific cod remains one of China's tightest whitefish markets, with Russian longline raw material in the high 8,000s per metric ton and U.S. product still above $9,000 per metric ton. Processors describe the market as stable but short, with firm loin pricing and extremely limited migas availability due to ongoing raw material shortages. Pollock is increasingly viewed as a stabilizer rather than a low-cost substitute, as elevated cod pricing continues supporting the broader whitefish complex. Atlantic cod pricing has stabilized, though the market tone remains softer than Pacific cod. Russian and Norwegian raw material continues trading above $10,000 per metric ton, but buyers are becoming less selective on sizing and purchasing more opportunistically based on price. Inventories, particularly for smaller fish, remain relatively comfortable. Haddock remains one of the weaker categories in the whitefish complex. Prices are stable, but processors report sufficient inventory coverage and limited interest in additional purchases, keeping market activity subdued. Pollock pricing remains historically high, despite a modest correction from recent peaks. Russian raw material continues trading above $2,000 per metric ton, with supply still tight. Most Chinese buyers view the recent pullback as a short-term adjustment rather than a fundamental shift. Filet pricing remains elevated, while migas continues strengthening on raw material shortages. Pacific halibut remains extremely tight, with virtually no active raw material offers in the market. The last reported Russian indication was around $15.50 per kilogram, and pricing continues to be driven almost entirely by supply availability. Pink salmon markets remain exceptionally tight, with Russian raw material holding in the mid-5,000s per metric ton and limited, elevated U.S. new season supply. Processors continue reporting rising replacement costs and upward pressure from Russian suppliers, while lower Russian Far East 2026 harvest forecasts are increasing concern around pink, chum, and frozen raw material availability later in the year. Chum salmon remains firm and relatively stable, with limited availability of quality fish continuing to support the market. Processors report ongoing difficulty sourcing suitable raw material as buyers wait for new season supply. Our recommendation is that buyers maintain disciplined forward coverage on Pacific cod, pollock, halibut, and salmon as structurally elevated replacement costs and ongoing supply constraints continue supporting firm markets, while selectively leveraging softer Atlantic cod and haddock conditions for opportunistic buying. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe to our 3-Minute Market Insight to stay tuned for further updates. Thank you for joining me for the Tradex Foods 3-Minute Market Insight. This has been Ryan, reminding you to buy smart and eat more seafood.